Toddler found a German shepherd refusing to leave a grave. What she did next shocked the entire town. What you're about to hear isn't just a story, it's a moment in time that will stay with you forever. A moment that tested the strength of a child, the loyalty of a dog, and the fragile line between tragedy and triumph. This isn't fiction. It happened, and it might just change the way you see the world. Like, share, and let us know where you're watching from, because this story deserves to be heard. It was an early morning like no other in the small town of Willow Creek. The kind of morning where a thick fog rolls in, softening every sound and hiding the familiar in a veil of mystery. The streets were silent, empty except for the occasional flutter of leaves drifting lazily to the ground. A chill hung in the air, the kind that makes you pull your jacket a little tighter around your body and quicken your steps. But amidst this quiet, there was one place where something unusual was stirring, a place that most people avoided, the old graveyard on the outskirts of town. The graveyard was ancient, a patchwork of weather-worn headstones leaning at odd angles, moss creeping over stone surfaces, and patches of wildflowers pushing through the earth. It was the kind of place that carried stories, stories of lives long gone, of memories buried beneath the soil. Yet, it held a strange kind of peace, too, that early morning in the fog. Into this stillness walked a tiny figure, Lily. She was barely 3 years old, with chubby cheeks flushed from the cool air and big, curious eyes that reflected both innocence and an unusual kind of bravery. In her small hand, she gripped a threadbare teddy bear, a comfort she carried everywhere. Despite her young age, there was something about Lily that made her different. She wasn't afraid of the quiet graveyard or the shadows cast by ancient trees. Instead, she moved forward with steady steps, as if pulled by an unseen force. As she wandered closer to the heart of the graveyard, Lily's gaze landed on a sight that made her pause. Sitting quietly by a single, old gravestone was a German shepherd. The dog was large and imposing, with a thick coat dampened by morning dew. Its eyes were fixed on the gravestone, filled with a sorrow and steadfast loyalty that seemed almost human. The dog didn't move, not even when the cold wind swept past. It was as if the animal was holding a silent vigil, guarding something precious and sacred. This was not the first time townspeople had noticed the dog's strange behavior. For weeks, it had been seen sitting at the same spot, through rainstorms and biting cold. No one knew its name or where it came from. Some whispered it was the ghost of a soldier's companion. Others thought it was simply a stray with a sad story. But no one could deny the powerful emotion the dog seemed to carry, an unwavering devotion that touched the hearts of everyone who saw it. Lily, however, saw something deeper. Her little heart recognized a kindred spirit in the dog's steadfast watchfulness. Slowly, she reached out her hand. "Don't go," she whispered softly, her voice barely more than a breath. The dog, wary at first, lifted its head and, with a gentle sigh, leaned forward to nuzzle the toddler's fingers. In that moment, the two formed a silent bond, an unspoken understanding between a lost soul and a brave child. The townsfolk who watched this small act were moved beyond words. How could such a tiny girl reach through the sorrow and mystery surrounding the dog? What was the story that tied them together? Questions bubbled up in their minds, drawing them closer to a secret buried beneath layers of grief and love. But this was only the beginning. There was more to this story than anyone realized, a mystery that reached beyond the graveyard, beyond the town itself. Beneath the surface of this simple scene lay a tale of heartbreak, hope, and an unbreakable connection that would soon unravel, shocking everyone who heard it. As the fog slowly lifted and the sun began to warm the earth, an unexpected sound broke the silence. A soft knock, like a message carried through time. Lily's eyes widened in surprise. Even the loyal dog perked its ears, alert to something unseen. It was a sign that the town's quiet was about to be shattered by a story no one could have predicted. What secret was the dog guarding so faithfully? Why was little Lily drawn to this place? And what happened next would change the lives of everyone in Willow Creek forever. So, if you're ready to discover the truth behind the loyal German Shepherd and the brave toddler who refused to leave its side, stay with us. Because this journey is just beginning, and what comes next will leave you breathless. In the heart of the small town, nestled between winding roads and dense patches of woods, lived a German Shepherd unlike any other. His name was Max, a dog known far and wide for his unwavering loyalty and fierce protectiveness. Max wasn't just any dog, he was a companion, a guardian, and a friend to a man named Thomas, a kind-hearted soul who had cared for Max since the puppy's first wobbly steps. Everyone who knew Thomas spoke of him with warmth. He was the kind of man who would give you the shirt off his back and offer a helping hand without hesitation. Thomas and Max had an unbreakable bond. They were seen often walking the town's quiet streets, the dog trotting faithfully by his owner's side, alert to every sound and shadow. Neighbors admired their relationship. There was a kind of harmony in the way Max seemed to understand Thomas without words. If Thomas was joyful, Max's tail wagged. If Thomas was troubled, Max's eyes held concern. It was a connection that felt almost sacred. But tragedy struck one cold autumn evening. Thomas never returned from a routine visit to the nearby town. A car accident, sudden and devastating, claimed his life. The news rippled through the community like a cold wind, leaving everyone in shock and grief. For Max, it was a loss too profound to put into words. The man who had been his world was gone, and yet Max's devotion remained unshaken. From that day forward, Max was seen at the edge of the town's small graveyard, sitting steadfast by a single grave. The spot where Thomas now rested was no ordinary place. It was a humble mound marked with a simple stone, worn by years of weather but cared for with evident love. Max refused to leave this place. Through rain, snow, or blistering heat, he would be there, unwavering. His eyes were often misty, filled with a quiet sorrow that pierced the hearts of those who passed by. The townspeople's reactions to Max's vigil were mixed. Some were touched by the dog's loyalty, seeing in Max a symbol of undying love and the sacred bond between a man and his companion. They would bring blankets, food, and even flowers, trying to comfort the grieving animal. Others watched with a strange unease, whispering about the dog's odd behavior. Why would a dog stay by a grave for days on end? Some feared the dog was lost, perhaps haunted by memories it could never escape. Then there was the toddler, Lily, a little girl with big curious eyes and a heart full of wonder. Lily's family had lived in the town for generations, rooted in its rhythms and traditions. Her parents often spoke of the community as a close-knit family where everyone knew each other's stories and lent a helping hand when needed. For Lily, the world was a playground of discovery. Yet, even at her young age, she sensed the quiet sorrow that hung over Max and the graveyard. One morning, as the early fog blanketed the town in a ghostly hush, Lily wandered near the graveyard, drawn inexplicably toward the figure sitting by the lone grave. There was Max, his large frame curled protectively around the small mound of earth. The dog's eyes lifted to meet Lily's, filled with a gentle sadness, but also a spark of hope. Without hesitation, Lily took a few tentative steps closer, her tiny hands reaching out. Her family watched from a distance, torn between worry and awe. They had heard the stories of Max and the grave, but seeing the toddler approach the dog stirred something in the hearts of the townspeople. Here was a child unafraid, a small beacon of innocence confronting grief with bravery. Lily didn't run from the sorrow that Max carried. She seemed to understand it, perhaps in a way no adult could. The emotional stakes in the town were rising. On one side stood Max's unyielding loyalty, a living testament to love beyond loss. On the other, whispers of skepticism brewed. Some questioned the wisdom of allowing the dog to linger by the grave, fearing it might bring misfortune or trouble. Others simply couldn't grasp why anyone would be so attached to a place of death. Lily's family found themselves caught in the middle of this quiet storm. They knew their little girl was special, somehow connected to the heartbeat of the town in ways they couldn't explain. And as the days passed, the tale of the toddler and the German shepherd guarding a grave grew into a story that would challenge the hearts of everyone around. What would happen next? Would Max finally find peace? Could Lily's innocence unlock the mystery behind the dog's unshakable vigil? The town held its breath, waiting to see how the story would unfold. The first time Lily saw Max sitting by the grave, she was only 2 years old. A tiny bundle of curiosity and innocence in a world that already held so many mysteries. The morning mist still clung to the grass, soft and cool under her little boots, as she toddled cautiously toward the familiar figure. To most, Max looked like any other dog, but to Lily he was something more. A silent guardian, a friend in mourning. Her wide eyes took in the dog's solemn posture, and though she was too young to fully understand loss, something in her heart tugged her closer. As Lily reached the edge of the graveyard, voices called from behind her. Her mother, Mrs. Parker, was anxious. "Lily, come back," she urged gently, knowing well the town's feelings about Max's constant vigil. The adults in the community had long debated what to do about the dog. Some wanted to coax him away from the graveyard, hoping to ease his suffering, while others thought the dog's loyalty was sacred and deserved respect. Yet, no one had ever tried to interfere while Max was there. But Lily didn't turn around. Instead, she took a few more steps, drawn inexplicably to the dog. Max lifted his head slowly, his deep brown eyes meeting Lily's innocent gaze. There was no fear, only quiet understanding. The dog's ears twitched, as if sensing the child's gentle spirit. Lily knelt down carefully, her tiny hands reaching out in a gesture of comfort. She didn't speak, words were still new to her, but the look in her eyes said everything. To the adults watching from a distance, it was a moment heavy with meaning. When a few townsfolk approached, their voices mixed with concern and frustration. "We can't let the dog stay here like this," one said. "It's not healthy for him or for the town." Another added, "He's been here for weeks. What if something happens to him?" They stepped closer, hoping to gently guide Max away. But before they could reach the dog, Lily's voice, surprisingly firm for her age, cut through the murmurs. "No, Max, stay," she said, pointing at the dog with a conviction that stunned everyone. Her mother rushed over, a mix of worry and pride in her eyes. "Lily, Max can't stay here all day," she explained softly. "He needs to come home." But Lily shook her head stubbornly, stepping between Max and the approaching adults as if to shield him. Max said, "Wait," she whispered, her tone so tender it softened even the hardest hearts. In the days that followed, this scene repeated itself. Adults trying to pull Max away from the grave, and Lily standing firm in his defense. The townspeople grew to see Lily's unexpected bond with the dog as something extraordinary. It was more than a child's whim. It was a connection born from empathy deeper than many had expected from such a young soul. The toddler, despite her age, seemed to understand Max's emotions in ways the adults could not. She would mimic his posture, sitting quietly by his side, her hands resting gently on his fur. Sometimes, when Max whimpered softly or lifted his nose to the cold air, Lily would place a small finger on his muzzle, soothing him without a word. It was a silent conversation between two beings who had both experienced a profound kind of loneliness. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and painted the graveyard in golden hues, a passerby noticed Lily and Max sharing a moment that felt almost magical. Lily was humming a soft tune, her voice barely audible, while Max rested his massive head in her lap. She stroked his ears with careful fingers, and Max's eyes closed slowly, comforted by the child's touch. The passerby, a local artist, later described the scene as pure love made visible. Despite warnings from her family and the townsfolk, Lily made a quiet but firm decision to stay with Max whenever she could. She would sneak out in the early mornings, her parents discovering her sitting by the grave with the dog, sharing stories in the language of silence. Her bravery wasn't born from recklessness, but from a tender understanding that sometimes presence spoke louder than words. The emotional landscape of this unlikely friendship blossomed in those early days. The dog, once weighed down by grief and loss, found moments of peace in Lily's company. And the toddler, who had witnessed her own share of sadness in the world, found courage and empathy growing within her. In the gentle rhythm of their shared moments, the town began to believe that healing might come from the most unexpected places: a small child's heart and a dog's undying loyalty. News traveled fast in the small town of Willow Creek, where everyone knew everyone's business, or at least thought they did. It wasn't long before the story of little Lily and Max, the steadfast German shepherd refusing to leave the grave, became the talk of the town. What started as quiet whispers soon grew into a chorus of curiosity, concern, and wonder. One crisp morning, as the sun rose over the cemetery's ancient oak trees, a group of townsfolk gathered near the edge of the graveyard. Some came out of sheer curiosity, drawn by tales of a brave toddler bonding with a mourning dog. Others came with skepticism, unsure if this was simply a sad story or something more. Among them were journalists from the local newspaper, eager to capture the mystery for their readers. The town's weekly paper ran a front-page story titled, "Toddler and Dog's Unbreakable Bond, a Tale of Loyalty and Loss." The article detailed Lily's daily visits to the grave, her protective stance over Max, and the dog's unwavering presence. Photographs captured moments of innocence and sorrow, Lily's small hand resting on Max's head, the dog's eyes full of silent grief. The story struck a chord with readers, spreading beyond Willow Creek through online shares and social media. Animal experts also took notice. Dr. Karen Blake, a veterinarian from a neighboring city, reached out to the local animal shelter offering her insights. She explained that dogs, especially breeds like German Shepherds, are known for their deep loyalty and emotional bonds with their owners. "What Max is doing is rare but not unheard of," she told a gathered crowd at a community meeting. "Dogs grieve in ways that can be heart-wrenching for us to witness, but their love is profound." With growing public interest came a flurry of investigations. The townsfolk wanted to know everything about Max's past and, more importantly, about the person buried in that quiet patch of earth. Rumors swirled, stories were shared, and memories recalled. The grave, once an anonymous marker weathered by time, suddenly held the weight of many eyes and heavy hearts. Interviews with neighbors revealed that the deceased, Mr. Thomas Caldwell, had been a quiet man but well-loved in the community. He was known for his kindness, often helping with local events and always having a gentle word for children and animals alike. Friends spoke of his special connection to Max, a bond forged over years of companionship and mutual trust. The loss of Mr. Caldwell had left a void in Willow Creek, and Max's vigil became a living reminder of that absence. Lily's family found themselves thrust into the spotlight. Her mother, Anna, expressed a mix of pride and worry. "It's beautiful to see Lily's empathy," she said during a local radio interview, her voice soft but steady. "But as a parent, I worry about what this kind of attention means for her at such a young age." Her husband, Mark, nodded in agreement, adding, "We just want her to be safe and happy, not overwhelmed." The family's home soon became a place where reporters and curious neighbors came seeking stories, photos, and updates. Anna and Mark did their best to protect Lily from the growing attention, but they couldn't stop the ripple effect sweeping through the community. As the investigation deepened, conflicting opinions emerged among the townsfolk. Some believed Max should be gently persuaded to leave the graveyard for his own health and safety. "He can't survive out here forever," they argued. "We need to help him move on." Others, however, saw the dog's presence as a powerful symbol of loyalty, love, and the kind of bond that transcends even death. These differing views sparked debates at town hall meetings and casual conversations at the local diner. "This dog is a hero," one elder stated firmly. "He's teaching us all about faithfulness." Another resident shook their head, cautioning, "We have to think about the practical side. It's not healthy for anyone, including that little girl." Amidst this swirl of opinions, Lily remained a quiet but steadfast presence. Her innocence and empathy captured hearts but also highlighted the challenges faced by families dealing with grief and attention in small communities. The story of the toddler and the dog became more than a simple tale. It was a mirror reflecting the town's own values, fears, and hopes. The media coverage attracted even more outsiders: animal rescue groups, psychologists interested in the emotional connection between humans and animals, and social workers concerned about Lily's well-being. Each visit brought new perspectives, advice, and sometimes conflicting opinions. Through it all, Anna and Mark clung to the hope that Lily's gentle spirit would guide them through the storm. Behind the scenes, the local vet clinic kept a watchful eye on Max's health. They noted the dog's physical condition was declining. The constant vigil took a toll on his body as well as his spirit. "We have to find a way to honor his loyalty while ensuring he's cared for properly," Dr. Blake emphasized during one of her visits. Her words resonated deeply with the community, adding urgency to the search for a solution. The emotional stakes grew higher when the town learned more about the circumstances surrounding Mr. Caldwell's death, a sudden heart attack that left Max without his lifelong companion overnight. The grief felt by both human and dog suddenly became all too real. The grave was no longer just a resting place, but a symbol of the enduring connection between life and loss. As the days passed, the community's relationship with Max and Lily evolved from mere curiosity to a shared emotional journey. Whether in quiet conversations on front porches or heated debates in town meetings, the story touched something universal: the power of love, loyalty, and the fragile hope that even in loss, there can be meaning and connection. The skies above Willow Creek had been threatening for days, dark clouds rolling in like a warning from nature itself. The gentle town, so accustomed to peaceful mornings, braced for a storm that everyone whispered about but no one truly expected to be so fierce. It was on one of those heavy, ominous mornings that the quiet graveyard became the stage for a moment that would change everything. Max, the loyal German shepherd, sat as he always did, beside the grave of Mr. Caldwell, unwavering in his silent vigil. Nearby, little Lily clutched her mother's hand, her wide eyes filled with both wonder and worry as thunder rumbled in the distance. The wind began to pick up, scattering leaves and bending tree branches, and with it came a growing sense of urgency among the townsfolk who had gathered to watch. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the cemetery as a large branch, weakened by the storm, snapped and crashed perilously close to the grave. The crowd gasped, fear rippling through the onlookers as they saw the danger threatening both Max and the grave itself. Some rushed forward, calling out for Max to move, but the dog remained rooted, his eyes fixed on the earth beneath him. Then, in a moment that stunned everyone, it was Lily who stepped forward. Without hesitation or fear, the small toddler dashed toward Max, her rain boots splashing through puddles, her tiny frame unwavering against the wind. The adults shouted after her, their voices laced with panic, but Lily's focus was absolute. Reaching Max, she wrapped her arms around his neck, her innocent presence like a shield against the storm's fury. With a determined look that belied her age, she gently tugged at the dog, trying to coax him away from the grave. The crowd held its breath, watching as the dog hesitated for just a heartbeat before slowly rising, his body still tense but trusting in the child's calm resolve. The branch fell, landing mere inches from where Max had been, the earth trembling with the force. Relief swept through the onlookers, mingled with awe at the toddler's bravery. In that instant, Lily became more than just a child. She was a symbol of courage and pure-hearted loyalty, the living bridge between human and animal grief. News of Lily's fearless act spread quickly through Willow Creek. Neighbors who had once viewed the dog's vigil with skepticism found their hearts softened. They saw not just a grieving animal, but a community touched by the innocence of a child who understood something deeper than words could express. Local authorities soon became involved. The mayor visited the cemetery personally, accompanied by animal welfare officers who wanted to ensure Max's safety. They proposed moving the dog to a nearby shelter, promising care and comfort. But the townspeople, galvanized by Lily's action, insisted on something different. They wanted Max to be honored, his vigil respected, and his bond with the grave preserved. At a town meeting held in the old community hall, voices rose with emotion. "Max is more than a dog," an elderly woman declared, tears glistening in her eyes. "He is love and loyalty made flesh. And that little girl, her courage reminds us all of what truly matters." Others nodded, their hearts echoing the sentiment. The town agreed to establish a memorial site, one where Max could rest safely near the grave, cared for by volunteers inspired by Lily's courage. But the event's impact went beyond just protecting a dog or a grave. It touched a deeper chord in the community, a reminder that loyalty, innocence, and healing are intertwined. Max's vigil was no longer just about loss. It became a story of hope, resilience, and the unspoken language of love that crosses all boundaries. Amidst the renewed attention, whispers of a surprising revelation began to circulate. Some townsfolk claimed to have noticed unusual markings on Max, faint scars that seemed to tell a story untold. Others spoke of old letters found in the Caldwell family archives, hinting at secrets buried long before the grave itself. One evening, as the storm finally passed and the sun cast golden rays over the cemetery, Lily sat quietly beside Max. Her small hand gently traced the contours of a weathered headstone, and her eyes sparkled with a knowing light. "There's more here," she whispered softly, as if sharing a secret with the dog. "Something they didn't want us to find." The town, already captivated by Max and Lily's story, held its breath. The brave toddler's act had not only protected a loyal friend but had also opened the door to a mystery that promised to deepen the bond between the past and present, revealing truths that would shock and inspire in equal measure. As the days passed in Willow Creek, the quiet ripple of Lily's courageous act grew into a wave that swept through the entire town. What had begun as a simple vigil by a loyal dog beside a grave had blossomed into something far greater, an unveiling of hidden truths that shook the community to its core. The whispers about the mysterious markings on Max and the letters from the Caldwell archives were no longer just rumors. A group of town historians and curious neighbors worked together to dig deeper, uncovering a trove of old documents buried beneath years of dust in the town's library basement. Among these faded papers were letters, photographs, and journal entries belonging to Mr. Caldwell, the man whose grave had drawn Max's unwavering loyalty. Mr. Caldwell, they discovered, had been more than just a beloved resident. He was a quiet hero of the town, someone who had protected Willow Creek's natural lands from developers eager to turn the peaceful valley into something unrecognizable. His efforts had been fierce but secretive, and his sudden passing, officially from illness, now seemed cloaked in layers of mystery. But the most startling revelation came from the journals. Mr. Caldwell had raised Max from a pup, training him not only to be a companion but a guardian. The dog's scars, it turned out, were from years of protecting his owner during late-night patrols and confrontations with those who wished to see the town changed. Max wasn't just mourning a friend, he was guarding a legacy. Lily's role in this unfolding story became even more significant. Her innocent bravery had not only saved Max from harm during the storm but had inspired the town to look closer, listen deeper, and understand the bond between the dog and the grave. In her simple acts, standing by Max's side, comforting him with gentle touches, she bridged the gap between past and present, unlocking the secrets that had remained hidden for too long. The emotional transformation within the community was profound. Where once there had been suspicion, some people viewing Max as a stray, an inconvenience, or even a threat, now there was a deep respect and tenderness. Town meetings filled with heated debates turned into gatherings of shared stories and collective healing. Local artists began painting murals of Max and Lily, capturing their story in vibrant colors on the walls of the community center. Experts in animal behavior were called in to examine Max, ensuring his health after the long vigil and the storm. They confirmed what many already felt in their hearts. Max was more than just a dog. He was a symbol of unwavering loyalty and love. The vet volunteers who cared for him pledged to provide ongoing support, and plans were made to build a special shelter near the Caldwell grave where Max could live comfortably, watched over by the very community he had protected in his own silent way. Meanwhile, Lily's family, once cautious about the toddler's close attachment to the dog and the grave, found themselves overwhelmed with pride and gratitude. They watched as their little girl blossomed, her natural empathy and bravery becoming a beacon for others. Friends and neighbors praised her gentle heart and fearless spirit, and even the local school began using her story to teach children about compassion, courage, and community. Town leaders also reflected on the journey. The mayor, once skeptical, stood before a crowd during a memorial event, her voice steady and filled with emotion. "What Lily and Max have taught us," she said, "is that sometimes the smallest voices and the quietest guardians hold the greatest power. Their story reminds us to look beyond appearances, to honor loyalty, and to cherish the bonds that make us human." As for the future, Max's days of silent vigil would continue, but now he would do so surrounded by love and protection. Lily remained by his side, their friendship a living testament to the healing power of innocence and devotion. Together, they had turned a story of loss into a symbol of hope. The tale of the toddler and the German shepherd became woven into the fabric of Willow Creek's identity. It was told and retold, a story passed from one generation to the next, a reminder that loyalty and love could transform even the darkest mysteries into light. The graveyard, once a place of sorrow, became a place of community and celebration. In the hearts of all who lived there, Max and Lily had become more than just a dog and a child. They were the living spirit of Willow Creek itself, a symbol of resilience, unity, and the enduring power of love. As the seasons gently shifted in Willow Creek, the town itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. The wounds left by past mysteries and fears began to heal, softened by the warmth of shared understanding and renewed hope. Life resumed its quiet rhythm, but now it carried with it a deeper sense of connection, forged by the unlikely friendship between a small toddler and a steadfast German shepherd. Lily, once a timid child who had found courage beside a lonely grave, was blossoming into a young soul full of light and empathy. Her days were no longer marked by silent fears but by laughter and curiosity. The townsfolk smiled as they watched her grow, a living reminder of the healing power of innocence. At school, she shared her story, inspiring other children to see kindness in the smallest gestures, bravery in the simplest acts. Max, the loyal dog whose vigil had touched so many hearts, found a new home, not far from the grave he had guarded so faithfully. A specially built shelter awaited him, designed by the community that had come to love him. It was a place of comfort and peace, where he could rest beneath the shade of old trees, surrounded by flowers planted in memory of the man he had lost. And sometimes, when the sun set just right, Max would still visit the grave, sitting quietly for a moment, a gentle guardian watching over the past and the future. Their bond, unspoken but deeply felt, became a symbol for the town. It reminded everyone that loyalty is not just about duty, but about love. That innocence, even in its quietest form, has the power to move mountains and heal hearts. The story of Lily and Max was a testament to the profound impact small acts of courage can have, rippling through a community and beyond. In the soft glow of an autumn afternoon, Lily and Max sat together beneath the sprawling branches of an old oak tree near the cemetery. She leaned into him, her tiny hand resting gently on his fur. Max looked down at her with eyes full of quiet wisdom and unwavering devotion. No words were needed, their hearts spoke volumes. "Thank you, Max," Lily whispered, her voice filled with gratitude and love. And in that simple moment, surrounded by the golden light and the whisper of falling leaves, the town's story found its peaceful close and a hopeful new beginning. To everyone watching this story unfold, remember, sometimes the greatest heroes come in the smallest forms. Never underestimate the power of kindness, bravery, and love. They can change lives, save souls, and unite communities in ways we never imagined. So, when you see a quiet moment of loyalty or a child's innocent courage, hold it close. Because in those moments, the world becomes a little brighter, and the future a little more hopeful. Life has a way of surprising us. Sometimes, connections form in ways we don't understand. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more incredible journeys. Until next time, stay curious and keep believing.